Star Trek, the motion picture. To begin, let's take a brief look at the events that led to it. Star Trek made it to a third season, partly due to the efforts of fans to save it. In a gesture of appreciation, NBC moved the show to 10 p.m. on Fridays, and surprise, surprise, the ratings fell and the network, reluctantly, had the show canceled in 1969. And that, it would seem, was that. But beginning as early as 1970, Star Trek began airing in syndication, and in some areas many times a week. And in the era before digital downloads, this was binge watching. It began to pick up many new fans who were too young for the original airing, as well as the first audience who had only seen the episodes once, maybe twice in reruns. All discovered or rediscovered what a good show it was. This led to the first Star Trek convention in January 1972 in New York City. The media began to take notice of this strange phenomena, and in March, Gene Roddenberry himself dropped the first hint the show might make a return. 1972 was a fitting year for all this activity. Space themes were running through some of the music of the time, and we were still sending men to the moon. If you were looking for science fiction in movies or television, though, it was a bit of a vacuum. Oh sure, there was the occasional Planet of the Apes movie or substandard series to watch, but this only made Star Trek seem all the better. So in the meantime, along came the much maligned, often forgotten animated series of 1973 to 74. Seemingly rejected from canon, it did provide Kirk's middle name of Tiberius and Trek's first appearance of a holodeck. Mark my words, because much of the original cast's voice talent is used here, when CGI is advanced enough, you'll see the audio from it paired with digital recreations of Kirk, Spock, and all. Seeing there was money to be made, along came the Starfleet Technical Manual of 1975. Yes, there had been model kits from the show from the very beginning, but this was a different animal. This was pure geekdom in book form. Often fanciful, sometimes inaccurate, it was a valuable resource. One I in fact used to make my digital recreations of Enterprise interiors and props. The fan phenomena moved higher up in the media's awareness with the appearance of DeForest Kelley, James Doohan, and Walter Koenig on the late-night talk show Tomorrow with Tom Snyder in early 1976. The slightly baffled Snyder seemed genuinely puzzled by it all. Worth checking out. NASA itself now took notice as well, and in September 1976 had most of the original cast on hand for the unveiling of the space shuttle prototype, christened Enterprise. Well, in 1977, plans were announced for a new series for television called Star Trek Phase 2, but instead a new movie was released that year. Yep, a game changer to be sure. Now what? The story behind Phase 2 is a muddled mess, but after several months, Paramount had scrapped the idea, although some stories and themes would be used in future Star Trek iterations. In early 1978, it was announced Star Trek would be back on the big screen instead, and in 1979, a movie was released. Oh, come on, guys, you better hurry. All this brings us to Star Trek, the motion picture of 1979. My apologies for the lack of clips, but CBS won't allow anyone, just me, to use them in reviews. It's important to remember this movie was the first time a television show had gained cult status and made the jump to the big screen. Okay, one of the first times. The makers wanted you to know that it was important. Right off the bat is the title, the motion picture. It's not television anymore, got that? And we open with a 3-minute overture like big movies did in the past, and then credits set to music now familiar as the theme to the next generation, ending with the director's credit of Robert Wise. Robert Wise was no newcomer, and his sci-fi credentials were impeccable. He directed one of the best science fiction movies of the 1950s, The Day the Earth Stood Still, as well as The Andromeda Strain, one of the best of the 70s. In the meantime, he'd made little indie films like West Side Story and The Sound of Music. Remember, important. You've waited 10 years for this, and what do we get to begin? Klingon set to another piece of glorious music. little did fans know they tease you with Klingons for another 5 years before they get a proper appearance. Unknown to many at the time, Mark Leonard, better known as Sarek, is the Klingon captain. It's also the first use of the Klingon language. Neat. Next up, Spock, undergoing and failing to complete a ceremony to finish his training in logic. He can sense the alien presence that had quickly dispatched the Klingons. So far, so good. Then we're on to Starfleet headquarters on Earth. Okay. It is from this point on, gentle viewers, that things begin to go awry. And it is not for what you may think. The lengthy fly-around of the Enterprise, a scene that causes current movie watchers fits of apoplexy, is totally justified given the fact fans had waited 10 years for this moment. There's worse to come, believe me.
Where's Captain Kirk?
Where indeed. Kirk spends much of the first half of the movie with all the charm of a Danubian slime devil. Because, crisis. Gone is the brash young captain of the series, replaced with a scheming middle-aged admiral threatened by youth. Okay, fine, I guess the movie needed conflict and is provided with his clash with Decker, the present captain of the Enterprise. But does this go anywhere? Nope, it's conveniently dropped mid-movie, never to be spoken of again. In the meantime, though not his fault, Kirk presides over one of the nastiest deaths in the series, and later, totally his fault, almost gets everyone killed. Decker is just not that engaging a character to begin with, and his relationship with Ilia is just plain bland, a characteristic carried over to its clone, Riker and Troy, from Next Generation. Phasers on stunningly dull. In fact, Ilia is replaced with a robot, with the audience barely noticing. Spock comes on board. Oh, thank goodness, maybe some of the spirit of the original series will be there. Oh dear God, Spock, lighten up. The story element of him coming to terms with his human side at least carries through most of the film, if wrapped up in a touchy-feely 70s kind of way. Closest to his character in the original series is McCoy. He spars with Spock, however briefly, and gets to tell Kirk he's an idiot. Good times. His first appearance is the laugh-out-loud moment of the movie, hilarious, while simultaneously dating the movie instantly.
All that I could forgive. But pastels?
Yikes. Bland, isn't it? Gone are the walls splashed with colored lights. Understandable perhaps, but those uniforms. Okay, they could have been a whole lot worse. They are gone by the next movie, never to return. The rest of the returning cast get very little to do, which could be argued is in keeping with the tradition of TOS, although Chekhov does get his first of many grievous bodily injuries he'll suffer throughout the film series. It is the last 10 hours of this movie that gives it its not 100% inaccurate nickname as the motionless picture. Once the big baddie is found, there are endless shots, reaction shot, reaction shot, etc., as they get deeper into the energy cloud that surrounds whatever is at the center. Many have said they wanted to be 2001, but by 1979, movie audiences were not interested in spectacle for spectacle's sake. The plot, little that there is, grinds to a crawl. Once inside, they discovered that V'ger is actually the Voyager spacecraft melded with alien technology. Now, in 1979, the Voyager spacecraft was very much in the news, sending back the first close-up photographs of Jupiter, so this is an interesting choice. But fans noticed this was also a retread of the original series episode Nomad, with a murderous, mutated machine bent on wiping out all life on Earth. Only here Kirk didn't talk V'ger into blowing itself up. Progress, I guess. All in all, not the best nor the worst. There are many other contenders for worst, believe me. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.